We are live. We are live. It's episode 52 of Missouri Tigers Live. That's crazy to me. Holy cow. My big head. Oh my god. I need a haircut. Welcome to Missouri Tigers Live, episode 52. My name is Zach Ramelius. I am here as I am every week as we've hit the holiday season. Bowl games announced. Sorry, I don't usually get texts from my mom. Bowl games announced. Eli Drinkwitz extended. We'll finally talk about that a little bit more and kind of the details of the contract that were announced today by the press conference and at PowerMizzou.com. And then, of course, we've got a few NFL decisions that loom large for this Missouri Tigers team as they look forward to the 2026 season. And SEC notes, playoff notes, and let's get it rolling. It's not going to be a terribly long show. Don't want to, talk about everything that we'll have to talk about this offseason. Next week will be more of not even next week. January is going to be more of a portal heavy. We had National Signing Day. No real surprises out of the National Signing Day, so we can go into those recruits at a later time. I kind of realized last year not to blow all my content in a couple episodes over the summer, so I'm going to kind of leak it out slowly as I go through the second year of this. So, first things first, Mizzou announced bowl game. They'll be in the Gator Bowl against Virginia, December 27th. I'm going to give you the heads up now. I have a family Christmas that night, so I will not be live after the game. I know. Oh, shoot. Oh, did they change it? Oh, I don't know. But they will play the Virginia Cavaliers coming off that are 10-3, a double overtime loss from the college football playoff. We'll go more into previewing Virginia next week. But this is really irritating me. Shush, Ollie. But Virginia, we talked about a bunch, man. They had basically for that program where the kind of the standards are for that program, a dream season. The best season I can remember for Virginia football before this year with Bryce Perkins. I believe they won the ACC Coastal and got just beaten with a hammer by Clemson. But Bryce Perkins, I believe they made a New Year's Six Bowl against Florida, like when Kyle Trask was starting to emerge. That's off the dome, folks. So let me 2019 Virginia. And Bryce Perkins played in the XFL. I watched him play a couple times. So, they went under Bronco Mendenhall, went 9-5, 6-2 in the ACC. Played in the Orange Bowl against Florida. But look at me knowing my Virginia Cavaliers football. How bad they lose that ACC title game? 62-17. Great. But this was a dream season, man. They escaped so many times, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Like, look at 2023 for Mizzou. Like, they escaped a handful of times. You escaped Florida. You escaped Kansas State. Like, sometimes when you're not a blue blood, you have to get breaks, and Virginia did get a lot of breaks this year. They just did. If you look at some of their games, NC State, now they threw a pick in the end zone to lose the game. That was a bad break, but they beat Florida State in overtime. They won at Louisville in overtime, in a game Louisville largely dominated, but a defensive score. They beat Washington State by 2. They got North Carolina by about 6 inches at Cal. They kind of not a great game there. They went to Wake Forest and lost. They did beat the crap out of Duke in the regular season, and then they beat Virginia Tech pretty soundly. But look, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 escape jobs, 2 close losses, kind of evens itself out. But that team had a dream season under Tony Elliott. It was really funny, like watching like all the computer metrics, because like they were in the 40s, 30s, 40s all year. Like, it's not a great team. But Virginia did make it. So they did make that. Again, we're talking about the bowl game, the Gator Bowl against Virginia. So you have to give Virginia a lot of credit. And that's a team that, despite the disappointment of losing on Saturday night to Duke and costing themselves a chance at the playoff, they're going to want to finish strong. They just are. Eli teams typically do compete in the bowl games. Didn't in the first year because they had COVID. 21, they lost a close game to Army. That feels like a long time ago. 22, lost a competitive game with Wake Forest. 23, obviously beat Ohio State. Last year, obviously beat Iowa. It's really going to depend on who plays, who doesn't play. Like I said at the outset, we'll do a lot more previewing Virginia as the game gets closer. I think my last show will be December 22nd. Yeah, so that's 2 weeks from now. We'll do like a full Gator Bowl breakdown because we'll kind of have a better feeling like who's going to play, who's not going to play. And in these kind of bowl games, that's really what matters. But certainly a worthy opponent from the ACC. The ACC runner-up, and a chance for Mizzou to go 8-4 or to get to 9-4. Offensively, Mizzou should not have a lot sitting out in at skill position, and we'll see what Virginia has. And in 2 weeks, we'll kind of have a better feeling of who's playing, who's not playing. So, and then Monday the 29th, we'll do another live show. We'll talk about the game, and we'll really start to get the offseason going. But what I want to see in the bowl game, and I'm saying this on December 8th, I want to see Matt. He better play. There is no point in playing Bo. And I want to see a passing game that's being developed over these bowl practices. It doesn't have to be perfect from the outset. Win, lose, I really don't care. That's secondary. Like, of course, I would love for Mizzou to win and finishing the season 9-4 and keeping up with this momentum. But more than wins, I want to see them throw the damn ball and look good doing it. Teams have been able to throw on Virginia this year. I want to see Alubade. I want to see Johnson. I want if Johnson plays. I have some feelings Johnson won't be a Missouri Tiger next year, but I want to see Manning. I want to see some of the young kids get people confident about this passing attack next year. The running game will be fine. Under Eli, it does not matter. When Mizzou plays teams that aren't great, the run game is normally fine. But this passing attack is what's going to take this offense from good to great, or solid to good, or however you want to view this offense. I think it was fine. So if you want to get to good, great playoff contender offense, you're going to have a passing attack. And so that's kind of what I want to see in the bowl game. Let them rip it 30 times. And Mizzou's not the only one in this position. Like, Michigan needs to let Bryce Underwood throw the ball like 50,000 times in that bowl game just to make sure he's confident and ready to roll. Nope, that's not what I wanted to click. So it was announced today, biggest notes from Eli Drinkwitz's new press conference as he was extended at Mizzou. The staff pool increases from $12 million to $16 million. That's pretty significant. Obviously, Mizzou should have a new special teams coach next year. I don't know what you're spending on a special teams coach, but there'll be ample opportunity to improve at different areas depending on who leaves. Like, there's always been talk about Coach Loop leaving for a different program. You'll have a chance to really hire some really talented coaches and make your team better. For the record, again, it's December 8th. I do think Kirby Moore comes back next year, which is pretty disappointing. Get Eric Link away. Like, I tweeted like a joke, like $4 million for Eric Link, like the Patrick Star basketball meme with the LeBron Wade thing. But yeah, you have to do something different there. You just have to. Like, it was too disastrous to not do something different in 2026. So that's for the staff. We don't ever know really like what their NIL payout is, what they're going to give players. But the other note in the playoff, in the contract, and this is the more interesting note to me, any year in which Mizzou wins 8 regular season games or more, like this one, will trigger an automatic 1-year extension to the deal. That makes me nervous. Not because Like, look, Eli deserves it, but I never like these auto. I never like these auto extensions. We saw it with Mark Stoops. I don't. I think 8 wins is a good year at Mizzou. It is. Like 8 wins is good. As much as some of the stuff sucked this year. As much as some of it sucked this year, the team was pretty decent. So 8 years should be not celebrated, but not like acknowledged as like, oh, that was a bad year, like it would like in Ohio State or Alabama, those kinds of places. But it does make me nervous that 8 wins is kind of the barometer now for like Mizzou. I've not been shy about it. It's going to get a lot tougher for the Tigers moving forward. Now that you're playing 9 SEC games, 5 on the road potentially, it's going to be harder. I mean, just sitting here looking at the team next year. Okay, UAPB, that's an auto win. At Kansas, it's on the road, but you should win that one. Kansas is losing a lot and like more significant things than Mizzou is, and you're just more talented than them up and down the roster. Although that talent discrepancy doesn't matter as much when you go all in on portal, but we'll see. Troy win. Why are we playing Troy again? At Arkansas, you should theoretically win that game, so that's 4. You should beat Kentucky at home, although they have a new coach. That's 5. I would set and then you have at Georgia, at Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Texas, Oklahoma, Florida, at Mississippi State. I would set the win. I would probably set their preseason. I'll guess their wins. Excuse me, can't talk tonight. I would guess I didn't have a game Saturday, so I got to get back into this. I would guess their win total is going to be like 6.5. Maybe 7.5. Maybe. It kind of depends how much Vegas respects what Mizzou's offense is going to look like next year, returning as much as it should, and what Mizzou does in the portal. But I'm going to guess 6.5. I mean, you're looking at, okay, I mean, if you're just looking at the SEC schedule, like at Arkansas, sure. At Georgia, good luck. Eli teams play Georgia tougher than like you would think Missouri would play Georgia outside of 2020 and 2021. But still, I mean, so I guess 2 games out of 4, but like still, good luck. Florida, new coach. I really like their hire, Buster Faulkner. I think that was a legitimately great hire. Kentucky, new coach. Oklahoma, coming off the playoff, and going to return a lot next year. Texas, going to return a lot. Texas A&M has slapped you up and down the field and whipped you with a belt for 2 years. And at Ole Miss, they're going to lose a lot and new head coach. But anyway, getting into it. I'm not sure I'm enthusiastic about 8 wins becoming a barometer for a 1-year extension. Now, it wasn't Stoops where it was 6. I will grant that. But Eli Drinkwitz is extended through 2031 at the University of Missouri. Again, a good decision for Mizzou. Sometimes it's better to just be what you are. And Mizzou has kind of carved themselves out a really nice spot in the SEC where they're going to be competitive. They're going to win a lot of football games, and they're itching to break through. Now, the issue is you could fall off a cliff. As I have the wrong media asset out there. I'm sorry, Iowa floor, whatever. Floor covering. Shout out. I'm sure you guys do great work. But that does make me a touch nervous about what we could see from the Tigers moving forward, from a competitive standpoint within the conference. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on Mizzou-wise tonight, we're going to have some big NFL decisions coming up soon. The big ones being Caden Green, Trotter, and David Wilson. I don't have any intel. I have no this is what they're going to do. This is what this person's going to do. I truly do not know, and I will never pretend to know. I will not pretend to know something I don't know. Or even if I have a hint, I'll be like, I'm thinking this, or like I'm hearing this, or whatever. I'll never pretend. I have no idea. If I had to guess, and this is just pure guess, I think Caden Green's actually going to stay. I think Green stays. I think Wilson goes, and I think Trotter stays. So that means if you're Mizzou, you got to find 3 players on your offensive line. I thought Piegler played better as the year went down. I thought, and then you got Green, and then you'll have 3 other spots you got to fill, whether internally or the portal. I would like for Mizzou to only have to take 1 starting lineman in the portal. I think you can find 1. I don't think you can find 3. And we've talked about this on this show a bajillion times. If you listen every week, and I know there are a couple of you that do, it is going to be harder to find SEC quality linemen in the portal. It just is. Now, you're still going to have guys like Caden Green who just want to come home. It's going to be harder to find starters in the portal for any SEC school, let alone Missouri, where you're not, if you have a choice between LSU, Alabama, Georgia, some of these NFL factories for linemen, and then you look at Mizzou, who's done a good job. Membu, Javon Foster, Caden Green's going to get drafted this year or next year. Mizzou's done a really good job, but the reputation isn't quite the same as it is at an Alabama or an LSU. And that's something Mizzou's going to fight from here until the end of time. So I would really like them to develop their offensive linemen. I don't know what that means, who that's going to mean. We looked at their depth chart last week and who returns off the 2 deep. Obviously, Peagler comes back. They're going to lose Keegan Trost, who had a really nice year. They return Johnny Williams. They return Tristan Wilson, Jalen Early, Javen Richardson. I think they're going to bring back Caden Green. They're going to lose Dominic, Tollison, Trost. You got to find 3 starters, and 2 of them have to be guys. And that could also include Logan Reichert, who I know is in a competition to take a starting job. But I think you only need to grab a lineman, maybe 2 in the portal, 1 more for depth, unlike last year where they grabbed 5. Good Lord, they grabbed guidance, they grabbed Trost, they grabbed Early, they grabbed Will. So 4. I don't think they need to grab a lineman or a receiver, unless you can get 2 studs. That is always the caveat with the portal. Unless you can get a stud, then it's like, all right, get the stud. But if you can only get 1 legit starter, develop the rest. I think it's just important. At every school now, I think it's not going to be easy to find linemen to play in that first year. We've even seen Mizzou. Cam was a really good player, but it took till year 2 to really get going, and it took till the end of the year for Marcus last year, Marcus Bryant. So we'll see what happens. Again, we'll have plenty of portal talk in about a month when the portal actually opens, but those NFL decisions are really going to impact what Mizzou does next year. I don't think they'll need a D-end if Wilson leaves, but they definitely, and I don't think they'll need a linebacker. But I think your ceiling goes way up with those guys returning rather than staying. And I don't think Wilson's going to stay. I think he's like a 2nd, 3rd round pick. And I could talk about the thing with Georgia, guys. It was going to happen sooner or later. When an outcome reaches, we'll talk about it. But for now, I've just let it happen. Like I said, this is going to be a pretty quick show tonight. Bowl game was announced. We'll talk about the playoff here for a little bit. That's going to take off a decent chunk of the show. We have some SEC notes. We only had 1 SEC game this weekend. It was the SEC title game. Wow, Georgia, Bama doesn't lose SEC title games, and they got smoked. That was not a competitive football game in the slightest. And Georgia deserves, and Kirby Smart deserves a lot of credit. Drew Bobo, their center, was out. They were able to make enough happen offensively with Gunner, who they used in the run game, and Georgia's team that can win a natty. So that defense has only gotten better as the year's gone on, because it was a real struggle at the beginning of the year. Yeah, everyone was. That's why I changed my mind on Bama. I was like, I legitimately was like, well, you can't punish Alabama for losing the SEC title game. You can't, because there's a lot of teams we got to put Vandy in. Well, Vandy would have gotten smoked by Georgia. Texas, we already watched get smoked by Georgia, and hypothetically BYU or whatever. But man, you had negative 3 rushing yards. Because Bama hasn't had a good run game outside of Jalen Milroe, who was a quarterback for 5 years now. Brian Robinson wasn't that. It's been since Najee was there. I know, because I covered it. But yeah, so the SEC does get 4. Let's go ahead and just talk about the playoffs. Screw it. We'll talk about the playoff for about 10 minutes, and then we'll get out of here. So I can eat dinner. Okay, so the playoff. What a mess. This is why we did not need to go to 12. Now, I think we had a pretty clean break at 4 with Ohio State, Indiana, Georgia, and Texas Tech. I think we had a pretty clean break at 2, or at 3, I guess. But Texas Tech certainly, casually just had the best season in school history. They smoked everybody that wasn't named Arizona State. It was a solid team. Like, they didn't lose. Texas Tech ran through the Big 12 this year, and that deserves a lot of credit. Look, we can call the Big 12 middling. We can call it, the AAC on steroids, but like running the show like they did this year truly was impressive. I mean, they were never competitive. So I think we did have a clean break at 4. Sorry, Oregon. I do have a few complaints. We'll get into it. It is a fun It's a permanent for me. It's a permanent TV3 conference. That's just what it is. Like it's a TV3 conference. I love the Big 12. Like I have 4 screens, 3 TVs in my laptop. Permanent TV3. Oh, Cincinnati UCF's playing. Yeah, it's TV3. That's awesome. That's a fun game. Kansas Baylor are on. Great, TV3. That game will finish 45-40. Just permanent TV3. But Texas Tech deserves a lot of credit. As far as the rest of the playoff, it's in the contract at ESPN that they have to run that stupid ranking show every Tuesday. But like, if you go back and watch, I don't believe I ever talked outside of Mizzou, because I have to talk about Mizzou. I don't think I ever talked about it because there's no point. It's a charade. If you didn't pick that up 11 years ago, when TCU was number 3 in the country, beat Iowa State 55-3, 55-3, and fell all the way to 6. I can't help you. I just can't help you. It's a sham, obviously. Like there was no, if truly, you won in Miami based off head-to-head, and I agree with the decision. Miami based off a head-to-head should be above Notre Dame. Just do it. This is why preseason rankings are kind of a sham, because Notre Dame goes way up because they should have been. They lose a couple games, they fall, and then Miami loses later, so they fall behind Notre Dame, and then you got to move them back and forth. You got to give yourself buffer, and I'm pretty sure the committee, basically what the committee admitted is they gave Notre Dame credit for winning all the games. They were always going to win, and credit Notre Dame, they did smoke everybody, and got them back up into the top 10, and then Notre Dame misses because arbitrarily than the last week. It's all a show. It's no different than Love Island or or Dancing with the Stars. It's all just a show. And I don't blame the ACC commissioner for parading around Miami. I don't. Like, they don't get a share if Notre Dame makes it over Miami. And I know Miami and Notre Dame fans deserve to be equally as mad. Like, what we just spent the better part of 3-4 weeks in the field, and now we're out arbitrarily in a week neither Miami or us played, and Alabama looked like crap. I don't blame them for being mad. I don't really blame them for skipping the bowl game. I think it's kind of soft. I really do. I don't blame them, but it's, as a guy that played football, like, man, like some of those kids played their last game at Stanford 2 weeks ago and didn't know it. It's a weird thing. You could have played a really fun game with BYU, but I kind of understand it. Like, if you're not going to take the game seriously, if you're going to have bad practices, and then you're going to show up against BYU, who will punch you in the mouth with Bachmeier and LJ Martin, sure. Like, I get it, but I'm also like, it's kind of soft, guys. Like, you're Notre Dame. Don't be quitters. But whatever. And then the caveat now that wasn't going to be implemented is Notre Dame, if they're in a top 12, they're in the playoff no matter what. So you have now 6 auto qualifiers. This playoff is just a mess. I mean, it's always been a mess that's just driven for money. It's been kind of junk. So, like, that Bama Georgia game just didn't matter. Oklahoma, like, think of Michigan beating Ohio State last year. It just didn't matter. Like, okay, Ohio State had to play an extra game. Cool. Like, they've made it so with this 12 team, and now you got Herb Street and all them. Like, well, do we need to go to 16? And I saw a thing on Twitter, and it's the old adage, just one more lane on the highway, guys. That'll fix traffic. Just put in one more lane. Put in one more lane, and let more teams in. Although we're going to complain that James Madison and Tulane make it because we don't actually want more access for these teams. What we want is to see teams that we're familiar with play football games. Look. Is Oregon probably going to kill James Madison? Yeah, they're probably going to win by like 4 or 5 scores. It's just what's going to happen. But that's not like people are getting mad at James Madison. Like, why are you mad? Like James Madison was an awesome FCS program, and now under 2 different head coaches has been a really good FBS program in a quick transition to the FBS. Under Signetti and Bob Chesney, who took the UCLA job. It's a good G5 program. We have good G5 programs, but none of these programs are now in the G5. But like Northern Illinois for a while there in the MAC was consistently like a 9-3, 8-4, 10-2 type team. I'm thinking, of course, Boise in the Mountain West. Not last year. Last year was a bit of a pop-up. I know they won it this year, but that was not a very good Boise team. Comparatively. But, I'm thinking from the time they beat OU that year until 2014 when under, I think it was Brian Harsin, they won they played in the Fiesta Bowl, I believe it was, against Arizona and won. And that was with, who was the quarterback? He was in the NFL. Brett Ripien. They had a great run even before Kellen and after Kellen Moore. Does that count for UConn? No, I think it's just a Notre Dame thing. That's a good question though, because I'm not 100% sure. It should, although here's the dirty secret about Notre Dame, guys. Like, they get the ACC schedule, but because the ACC is such garbage, for the most part, it just is. There's like 4 or 5 programs that take football seriously, and one of them doesn't know what they're doing. In Florida State, they get to pick they play their rivals. I mean, if they were serious about rivals, they play Michigan every year, but they kind of pick and choose what rivals they want to play. Okay, they're playing Wisconsin in Lambeau. That's how many of these games for Notre Dame next year? Like, I was mapping this out at work earlier. They're going to beat Wisconsin. They're going to beat Rice. They're going to beat Michigan State. They're going to win at Purdue. They're going to win at North Carolina. Navy, be serious. Miami, okay, rematch game. We'll see what Miami looks like. Boston College, they're going to win that game. SMU, going to destroy in that game. They go to Syracuse. They'll destroy Syracuse. They'll destroy Stanford. Notre Dame, the Notre Dame schedule has just been terrible lately. Like, they, in the name of rivalry, although they don't play Michigan, they get Stanford, who's fallen off a cliff. They get Navy and Army, who Notre Dame, if Notre Dame's serious, they'll beat those teams. So, it's just frustrating. But good. I mean, it's a fine rule. Like, I'm fine with it but whatever. When Notre Dame's in the Big Ten in 5 years, it'll be fine. Yeah, I mean, the bowl season's dead. It's just dead. It is. Like I just said, I have a family Christmas the night in the Zeus Bowl game. I'll watch it, obviously, because a couple of my family members, but I'm not going to do a show. I'll do a show Monday. Like, who's going to play? We'll talk about that on the 22nd. If Tulane can shock Ole Miss. Well, I've already watched the 2 teams play. It wasn't close, and it wasn't even as close as the score indicated. It's weird that we are going to get 2 rematches, and I thought we were going to get 3 because I thought we were going to get Notre Dame, Texas A&M, but when you could just arbitrarily have flipped a couple, whatever. But you could have put Miami at 9 and Alabama at 10, but you had to do it back to back because we compared these 2 teams, and we would have gotten Miami, Oklahoma, and Notre Dame, Miami, Oklahoma, and Alabama, Texas A&M. I think we were kind of stuck with Tulane, Ole Miss, and Tulane's a really good team, but it's not the same because this isn't on a neutral site, and that this Tulane team is not as good as that Tulane team. It's just not. And all the respect in the world for John Summerall, but it's just not as good. That Tulane team was getting whipped by UTSA. If it's close for a half, like we got to take the W there. Like two of the blow. So everyone's complaining like, oh, two of the 4 playoff first round games are going to be blowouts. The playoffs have always been blowouts. Like last year we had blowouts. How many good first round games do we get? Like Clemson tried for 2.5 quarters against Texas. Like good for you. SMU didn't know which way was up when they went to Penn State. Tennessee got smoked. Yeah, all of them last year were blowouts. Like, guys, in the 14 we had blowouts. How many good games do we have in the 14 playoff era in the round of 4? Okay, you had I'm going year by year. You had Ohio State, Bama. You had Ohio State, Bama in the first year. You had none in 15. You had none in 16. 17, you had Georgia, OU. Great football game. 18 was Clemson. I believe it was Clemson, Notre Dame. No, it was Clemson, Ohio State. When Ohio State got – no, it wasn't. Who was 2018? Ohio State didn't make it. They lost to Purdue that year. Might have been Notre Dame, but no good games. You had 2019, Clemson, Ohio State was a great game. Yep, 2019, that was a great game. LSU, Oklahoma, not a great game. 2020, bunch of blowouts, including the Natty. 21, one blowout. Georgia, Michigan was a blowout. 22, you had Ohio State, Georgia, great game. So what are we up to, like 4 games now in 8 years? And then who was the other? Oh, and TCU, Michigan. That was a good one. So that's 5. 23. Michigan, Bama was good. Washington, Texas was good. So 7. The last couple years, we did legitimately have back-to-back good years and then kind of crappy natties, but that's okay. And then last year, they were all blowouts. There's always going to be blowouts. Shoot, the round of 8 had a bunch of blowouts. Oregon got their crap kicked by Ohio State. Boise played really hard, but just clearly was not enough against Penn State. Notre Dame, Georgia was a lot of fun. Ugly, but a lot of fun. And you had Texas, Ohio State, which was just a team up and down filled with pros. So, the playoff is always going to have blowouts, and I didn't mean to go on a G5 rant like that, but it's not James Madison's fault. The ACC is a wholly unserious conference. You had a 7-5 team playing for your conference title. Like, let's be so serious here for just a minute. Garbage. They're the next conference that's going to go, and what's going to suck is there are programs with a lot of tradition in that conference that I think are going to get left out. I think because of basketball and brand, I think like North Carolina, Duke, I even think Virginia is going to be okay because they have such a strong academic. Manny Diaz won the freaking ACC before Mario did, which is hilarious. I think those schools are going to be okay. I do think the Big 12 is going to survive and kind of be like that third conference. That's not the Big 10. That's not the SEC. And I think they're going to take a lot of the scraps. I think they're going to take a Louisville, a Virginia Tech, a Georgia Tech. But you're going to see some of these programs, Wake Forest, Boston College. I'm very curious about Pitt. I think Pitt will find a home in the Big 12. I do. I think they'll find a home because they're, West Virginia's there. They'll find a home there, but I'm not 100% on that. Syracuse, what's going to happen with Syracuse? Their basketball program hasn't been good in so long, and their football sucks. They had the really nice year under Fran Brown that last year with Kyle McCord. That's completely fair. But they're the next conference that's going to get yeeted. What happens again to Cal and Stanford? We're going to do this like SMU. We're going to do this again. For basketball, but football, are they just going to be left out in the cold? Like Washington State and Oregon State, like probably. That's why I think the Virginia Tech hiring James Franklin was so important. because, like, okay, you're serious. All right, like the Big 12 is now intrigued. Even Virginia Tech has a lot of history. It's a one coach school. It's been Beamer and nothing else as we continue to talk about the playoff here at the Voice of College Football, Missouri Tigers. Elsewhere, I mean, Indiana, Ohio State. I watched that game and I realized how far Mizzou still has to go to be at that level. And I think a lot, and not the only one. You watch some of these other teams, like you watch Oklahoma compared to Ohio State, like that's not close. Especially offensively, like the talent, the speed. OU has a great defense, but they just do not have that offensively. They don't have that gear. And it was a 13-10 game, understood. But there's a lot of schools that should probably have watched that game and been like, oh, it was awesome for Indiana. Like, first Big Ten title in 50-something years, like, first non-shared since, like, the 50s. Like, no, it's awesome for Indiana. And look, now, and Cignetti's kind of ruined every new coach because Cignetti did it at Indiana. There was a special set of circumstances there. And Cignetti just, damn, he might be a Mount Rushmore coach guy. Like, he might be next to Saban and Bear and throw whoever else. Like, what he's done at Indiana is a once in a lifetime. In 2 years, we have the talent thing. We know what a national champion in football looks like. I'm rooting for it to fall because I love new data, I love new information, and it gives other teams hope. But right now, for a lot of teams, the hope is just to make the playoff. But if Indiana can go out there and win it, or Texas Tech. And those are two teams I do think can win it. I wouldn't pick it. If I had to pick today, I'd pick Ohio State. But it's going to be interesting. Elsewhere, Georgia, Ole Miss in the second round potentially is a lot of fun. And a neutral in New Orleans, like that's going to be crazy. Texas Tech, Oregon, they played a home and home a couple years ago. Actually, I think they only made the trip to Lubbock. It was a super fun game, and Curt Cignetti owns OSU. Well, he's 1-1, and he got killed last year, so we'll see. But Sig's awesome. If Indiana or like Tech, like we have the teams that have the talent to win the title this year. Bama, OU, Notre Dame. Notre Dame, crazily by every metric, it was legitimately a team that could have won it. And they just didn't make it because they dropped 2 close games, and the rest of their schedule sucked. Look, beating up Arkansas is nothing to celebrate. Beating up on Stanford in the military schools, like, woohoo. Go out of your way, schedule some better teams. Don't stop scheduling the bottom of the Big Ten. Purdue, a rivalry, sure, but you're going to avoid Michigan. Yeah, it's hard not to like Sig, man. Like it's hard not to like Sig. The only thing I didn't like about Sig last year was in the game against Ohio State, in the game in Notre Dame, he was so cocky and brash, which I love. But then he coached really conservatively in those games, and he coached those games like, all right, let's not lose by 50, which I found really discouraging. And then this year. And so there was a hint of truth of like, well, look, you were just bad schedule merchants. There was a hint of truth of it, but it's also with the caveat of this is Indiana football. And this year they beat Oregon, they beat Ohio State neither of those games in Bloomington, except he's won a big game. And now he's won those. Last year he coached not to lose. And in the Notre Dame game, he coached not to lose by 50. Once Jeremiah Love made that like 99-yard touchdown, he definitely coached that game to not lose by 100. This year's team's a lot better. They a second year of continuity for a lot of those JMU guys, or at least some of them a third year. And they're definitely dude. Indiana's the number 1 team in college football entering the playoff. Like that's. I don't know how long you guys have been watching college football. I don't know how long you've been thinking about this. That's so crazy. Like that's the equivalent of like Rutgers or Mississippi State was number 1 for a little while, but for like 2 weeks. Or, West Virginia, although they were number 1 too. Sorry, I'm giving really bad examples here. It's the equivalent of like Kansas being the number 1 team entering the playoff, or it just sounds it truly, they're the losingest program. They have the worst winning percentage in college football history, and they're the number 1 team in the country. And 2 years ago, they were so awful they fired Tom Allen, who that program generally liked until the weird preachy video. Yeah, Indiana's in the Rose Bowl in like 60 years. Like, they're just not. It's a horrible program, and they're the number 1 team in the playoff and with absolutely a chance to win the Natty and a chance to destroy a lot of narratives around the playoff. Again, I think the favorite's Ohio State. I think your second favorite has to be Georgia right now. I know what Indiana's been like. I just want to see because it's Indiana, and this is a character flaw. I'll admit that. I just still have a hard time believing they're going to go beat potentially an Oregon in their first game. No, not Oregon. They're going to potentially beat Oklahoma or Alabama in the first game, then go beat an Oregon, and then go beat Ohio State, Georgia. I just have a hard time seeing. I want to see it, and I'm rooting for it. I'm rooting like hell for it because new data points would be amazing, and new information and more hope for some of these programs that aren't at the cream of the crop. It's always been my biggest issue with the playoff is basketball. We know we have enough data outside of 2014 UConn. We have enough data to know what a national champion looks like, but it's not based off recruiting. It's not based off of, how big your brand is. It's based off of how good you are defensively, how good you are offensively in different metrics. And in football, it is definitely based off recruiting and the athletes you bring. Oh yeah, well, in this era, everybody earns it. You earn it because the only team that could have not earned it maybe was Notre Dame last year, just because they played Indiana. All right, fair enough. And then they've got Georgia's backups, Penn State, who can't win a big game. Penn State hiring Matt Campbell, good hire, should have made it 2 months ago. Anyway, C+. Yeah, no, man. This playoff's going to be a lot of fun. I don't like the playoff. I've made that abundantly clear to a lot of people. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun once we get to the quarters. I'm really looking forward to Oklahoma-Bama. I think it's going to be a really fun game. Someone pulled out, why is that game on Friday? And why are the two, potential blowouts, if you look at the lines there, why are the two potential, the late game, the afternoon late game? Well, those games are going to be competing against the NFL. That's why. So that's why, Miami, Texas A&M is at 11 a.m., I'm really looking forward to that game. That's a hell of a football game because that Miami D-line is disgusting. And the Texas A&M offensive line is really good. We saw Texas, who has a pretty dang good D-line, beat up on and we saw Mizzou, who has a good D-line, beat up on Texas A&M for 2.5 quarters until they just couldn't. Offensively, Mizzou just couldn't do anything, and eventually the defense fell apart. It happens. And we saw Texas beat up on that D-line. It's not a night game. I've seen A&M play plenty of day. A&M played day games where that atmosphere was crazy, like Mizzou last year. It is lucky it's not a night game. I understand why it's not a night game. If you're ESPN, you don't want it competing against NFL games. You just don't. Not everyone's a weirdo like me. But man, but once we get to the quarterfinals and you're looking at Oregon, Texas Tech, Georgia, Ole Miss, Alabama, Oklahoma versus Indiana. Alabama and Oklahoma, two of the biggest blue bloods in the sports history, two of the top 3 programs in the history of the sport, along with Ohio State, trailed by Michigan, Notre Dame. No, I don't want to get into a controversy here. 2 of the top 5 brands in the history of the sport are going to play a game, and the winner plays Indiana in the Rose Bowl. That's going to be awesome. Miami or Texas A&M against Ohio State. if I'm an Ohio State fan, I kind of want A&M to win that game. I look, the Indiana D-line gave Ohio State some issues, and Miami's D-line's awesome. Cassius Howell's great for Texas A&M. The rest of their D-line can get got. So it's going to be fun. We'll talk more playoff. We have plenty of time. I probably went a little too long about it. This is a Missouri-based show. So we'll be back next week to talk more Mizzou, more transfer portal needs, things like that. This is, hopefully not a super crazy week for Mizzou, but there's going to obviously be some announcements, who's going to skip the bowl, things like that. So we'll be back next Monday at 7 o'clock, December 15th. I will see you guys then. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for commenting. This fun show is always much more fun when it's just not me staring at my face on StreamYard. So you all have a wonderful night. Enjoy your week. If you're into hockey, basketball, FCS playoffs are going on. North Dakota State losing to Illinois State is like the craziest thing that's happened in like 5 years. So that was awesome. Watched a lot of that game. You guys have a wonderful time this weekend and enjoy the first real week of the holiday season, I guess. And I will see you on Monday. MIZ and yeah, that's about it. Fire Eric Link.